At the edge of the world there is a mountain, and on this mountain there was a rock, and from this rock springs the purest water in the universe. And at the opposite edge beats the great heart of the world, which gazes all day long at the mountain. Now the great heart, filled with love, yearns for the water, and it stands there waiting to move towards the spring, but it cannot move. One move and the great heart would lose sight of the mountain, and in that instant the world would die. But every evening when the sun goes down, the heart sings to the spring, and all hearts at the same moment sing to each other. Now there is a righteous man who walks the earth every evening and gathers all of these numberless threads of songs and weaves them together into time. And it is just enough time to make up another day. This, the righteous person gives to the great heart, which then sings again next evening to the spring. And in this way, out of love, out of song, out of yearning, out of longing, out of beauty, the world continues to exist. Time is created every day, so that every day all hearts can beat, including the great heart of the world. Adon Olam Asher Malach Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Beit Nasa B'chiftu Kol Azai המלך שמו נקרא, שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה, בתפארה. והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והמשרה. והוא אלי אליך גואלי, צור חבלי בצרה, וניסי ומנוס לי מנת כוסי ביום קרא, ביום קרא. ויעדו הפקיד רוחי, הייתי שם והעירה ועם רוחי הביאתי אדון עלי ולא יירא, ולא יירא. ידוע כדרוכי ביתי שם והעירה ועם רוחי גביעתי אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי ולא יירא. Into your hands I entrust my spirit, the time that I lie down and the time that I rise up. With my spirit, my body too. God is with me, I shall not fear. God is with me, I shall not fear. בידו הפקיד רוחי, ותישן והעירה, עם רוחי גביעתי. אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי ולא ירא, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי ולא ירא, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי, אדון עלי ולא ירא, אדון עלי, 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 אדון עלי ולא ירא. I feel the necessity to recover that pure love power, that non-dynamic, demonic love power, that non-demonic spiritual healing love power. I feel the necessity to be I'm going to sing an accompanying love song that accompanies the bride as she goes looking for her lover, for the purity of their union that every Shabbos signifies. I'm going to sing a love song that accompanies the search of the bride for her lover as she comes searching for him every Shabbos, with the intimation that she will indeed find him, and the anticipation that she will indeed join with him, which is celebrated every Shabbos. I feel the necessity to sing this love song. Come, my beloved, let us welcome her. She is that inner presence of godliness that we call Shekhinah, Malchut, the Kabbalistic entry into the world of all that is holy and beautiful and integrative. I feel the necessity to welcome her now. The way that we welcome her every Shabbos, we sing her a love song. לחדודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לחדודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה וזכות דפות אחד השמיענו אל מיוחד אדוני אחד תשמו אחד תדה 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 לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבלה לקראת שבת נכוונה לך כי מקור הברכה בראש מקדם נסוכה בדבדי דבדי 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 לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי בעורף קומי יורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבל בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה וצוך עולה תוך אמונה המסרו בואי חלה 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 בואי לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבלה 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 לך דודי לקראת קלה ונשבת נקבלה. On every Saturday night, when you walk those streets of Sfat, you can hear sometimes this song. And oftentimes, when you walk around Sfat on Saturday night, the yeshiva boys, they come out of their places of study, and they come out into the street and they sing these songs. And they'll sing them in the streets, or the windows are open, but usually they come out. They sing them under the stars in the night. This is one of the songs you'll hear there. It's Al Tira Abdi, and in this tune, Al Tira Abdi Yaakov. Don't be afraid, Jacob, my servant Jacob. Now, why is Jacob afraid? I mean, why should he be afraid? It says, don't be afraid, but why should he be afraid? Al Tira Abdi Yaakov, I don't know. It comes from a midrash, maybe. There's a midrash that says a very famous story about Jacob is on his deathbed. You know this story? He's on his deathbed, and he has his children gathered around him. And he's worried. He's about to die, and he's worried that he hasn't. You know how it is when you have children. You worry that you didn't teach them the essential thing, the one thing. Maybe I didn't do my job, Maybe I didn't teach them the most important things. And that's what he's worried about. So his kids look at him and they say, Shema Yisrael, listen Israel. That's, Jacob is Israel. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, relax. You taught us the most important thing. You taught us God. You gave us the most important thing. And he was so relieved that he said under his breath, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Blessed is God. Thank God, he said. And then he dies. So maybe this is where the song comes from. Don't be afraid, Jacob. And it's an acrostic. Every verse is the whole Hebrew alphabet. All verses about Jacob. Don't be afraid, Jacob. You did your job. You taught your children God. So one day I went to the New Age yeshiva and they had invited one of the real Breslov teachers. No, they don't have Rebbes anymore because the Rebbe was never replaced. His teachings were so powerful and profound, he was never replaced. But one of the Breslov teachers came to the New Age yeshiva and I sat in the front row and I listened to his Torah and it was fantastic. And I sat there and afterwards I went up to him and he played the guitar. So afterwards I went up to him and I said, I exaggerated a little bit, I said, all my life I've been hungry for this Torah. I said, do you live in Mea Sharim? He says, yes. I said, do you learn there? In the yeshiva there? He says, yes. I said to him, could I come there and learn with you? He says, of course, come tomorrow, 2:00. Gives me the address. So I went every day, 2:00. I went to number 3 Yoel Street, which was right down the street from the main Breslov yeshiva. And I walked inside every day and I took the table and I moved it to the west because the teacher liked to sit on the east. And he came in precisely at 2:00. And we all sat, there was a group of us that sat there and learned from 2 to 5, no breaks, no talk. Noses in the text. At 5 o'clock, we rose for air and we left. And I knew nothing about anybody of the people I studied or learned with there, except we were all bonded together in a very deep way. We went day in and day out, 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock, 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock. I went every day. I came to know Mea Shearim like it was Clayton, Missouri. I knew where to park. I knew where to go. I knew when the police came by. I knew how to avoid the police. I knew where to eat. I knew where not to eat. I came to know the shopkeepers. I knew where to buy pencils. I knew where to buy paper. All of a sudden, I had entered this world that I thought was impenetrable to me. And then my family showed up. And I was having such an experience, I didn't know how to describe it to them. Here I was studying the text with the sources. And when my family showed up, I couldn't quite tell them where I went every day at 2 o'clock, so I just went. I didn't break my routine. I didn't know how to describe it. I wasn't ready to talk about it yet. It was one of those extraordinary experiences that you know is remarkable while you're having it, but it was too soon to conceptualize. I couldn't talk about it. It was just so wonderful. So one day as I'm leaving about 1:30 to go to find my parking space, I know it just opens up at 1:40, and I know the police won't come till 5:10. My son, Jacob, says to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well," I'm thinking, gee, I don't have time to tell you the whole story. I said, "Well, I'm going into town." He says, "Can I go with you?" And I had a moment there where I felt like I didn't know what to do. I didn't have time to explain the whole concept. I didn't know if I could take him with me. I didn't know how to explain where I was going. We had been to Mea Shearim before, but we had been there like a bus ride through the San Diego Zoo. Oh, look. Oh, look. And here I was. So I said, yeah. So we got in the car, we drove to Mea Shearim, and we walked down the street, and I took him to the yeshiva where I go, and it was 5 minutes to 2, and I stood him outside the yeshiva, this little wall that was built outside of the courtyard there, number 3 Yoel Street, the yeshiva Shuvat Yisrael, return, O Israel, from Hosea, what we read in the Shabbos Shuvah between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, return, O Israel. And I sat him there, I said, "Jake, I'm going in here. I'm going to learn in here for an hour. And you can go off, go ahead, walk around, but be back here in an hour." Now, Mea Shearim is teeming. It's a teeming place. And it's in a labyrinth. If you don't know your way, you're lost. And on this day, they were picking up the street and putting down the street like they do every other day in Israel. They were taking up the concrete to put down the concrete the next day like they do in the street. The one main street going through Mea Shearim was completely taken up with concrete. You could hardly walk, which didn't at all impede the Egged buses from careening down the street anyway. So it was truly a dangerous walk. I said, "Now, Jake, watch where we are here. I'll be back here at 3 o'clock, 1 hour." I said, "You can go up and down that street, but don't go anywhere else." He says, okay. I said, "No, be right here at 3 o'clock, all right?" He says, okay. I say, 3 o'clock, 1 hour, no problem. And before I take leave of him, he looks at me in a very uncharacteristic Jake's way. He says to me, "Is it safe here?" I thought about it for a second. I said, "Yeah, it's safe here. But don't leave this street and be back here at 3. So I went into the room and I pushed the table to the west so that my teacher could sit in the east. And precisely at 2 o'clock, he came in and everybody sat around a table. And we put our noses in the books and we started to learn. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, what did I do? First of all, we had moved the day before into an apartment that I myself didn't know the address of. I had it written in a piece of paper in my pocket. We had just moved into it. I didn't know my own phone number. We had left a hotel. We had unpacked from a hotel. And the only place he knew was this hotel that we had moved out of the day before. He didn't even know where we were staying. He had no phone number. He had no street name. And I left him to walk around Mea Shearim. And at that time, he wasn't taller than I am. And I'm sitting there. I couldn't study the text. I'm sitting there thinking, what have I done? I let him into the labyrinth of Mea Shearim, the street, the Egged buses, the world that I myself had just entered. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I done? I couldn't focus on the text. I'm counting off the minutes till 3 o'clock. I'm trying to prepare my speech, what I'm going to tell his mother. So at precisely 3 o'clock, I bolted from the room. I made apologies. I says, look, I got to go. And I went out front in the courtyard, no Jake. I walked down to the corner of Mea Sharim Street, what they had taken. Now they had completely taken the concrete out of the street. And here comes 3 more buses. Up and down the street, I'm looking, no Jake. 3:05, I go back to the courtyard in front of Shuva Yisrael, no Jake. I go inside the yeshiva, I go into the dirty bathroom, and I was looking, no Jake. I go into the dirty kitchen, no Jake. I go into the room where we studied with the dirty books, no Jake. I go out to the courtyard, 3:10, no Jake. I go to the other side of Mea Sharim Street, 3:15, no Jake. I go back to Mea Sharim Street, 3:20, no Jake. I'm starting to prepare my best Hebrew, so how I'm going to explain this to the police department, that I let my American kid without an address or a phone number walk around Mea Sharim by himself. 3:25, no Jake. I'm running up and down Mea Sharim Street, dodging cars and workmen. And people are hollering and honking at me. No Jake. 3:30. I go in the front courtyard. No Jake. I go back into the yeshiva, into the dirty bathroom. I look into every stall. No Jake. I turn the water on. I wash my face. I look at myself in the mirror. I walk out into the courtyard, and I just looked up into the sky, and I hollered, Jake! And I turned around, and there's Jake sitting on the wall in the courtyard in front of number 3 Yoel Street, exactly where I told him to be, with a bag of candy in his hand and another bag. I said, Jake, where have you been? He said, I've been here the entire time. I said, Jake, I told you to be here at this little wall at 3 o'clock. I came out here at 3 o'clock. I looked up and down the street. I looked everywhere. He looked at me. Now, Jake has many expressions in his eyes, but this time he looked at me with complete candor and with softness and with absolute certainty. And he said to me, I've been here the entire time. I said, Jake. I looked up and down here. I hollered to the Hasidim, to my own Hasidic ancestors, to the dirty books and to the dirty washroom. I stood here hollering, Jake. And I turned around and there you were. He took me by the hand, both hands. He says, Dad, I have been here the entire time. I told this story on a Yom Kippur a couple of years ago after I'd written it. And then that night I couldn't sleep. My dog was sick. Something was tugging at me, from within and from without. When I came to myself in the morning, I realized that I had written a Rabbi Nachman of Breslov story, complete with a lost child, the exile, the return. I realized I'd answered the question for myself. The question was, had I given him what was necessary? Had I taught him what was necessary? Had I communicated to him what it was that brought me to Mea Sharim? Have I taught him that? What brought me to study with the Breslovers? I asked the question that Jacob asked, his kids, that he asked himself. And I realized that I had written a Rabbi Nachman of Breslov story, complete with a lost prince, an exile and return. But the question is, who was the lost prince? Was it my son or was it me? This is a song about Bar Yochai. Bar Yochai was the great hero of Jewish mysticism. He spent 12 years in a cave. Eluding the Romans. And then he came out and he said, "Is it safe?" And they said no, and he went back into the cave. And there with his son Eliezer, he hid out and wrote commentaries on the text. And when he came out, finally he said, "What needs to be done?" And they said, "Well, there's a cemetery that needs to be plotted, its borders." So he plotted the borders of the cemetery. And he went home and he watched his son grow, and he took lunch, wrote small commentaries on the text, but his fight with the Romans was over. And he spent the rest of his days believing that if he could only spend 2 Sabbaths properly, the world would be redeemed. Bar Yochai, נמשכת אשריך, שמן ששון מחבריך. בר יוחאי, נמשכת אשריך, שמן ששון מחבריך. Bar Yochai, at shitim umdi, limude Adon Olam lomdi.
Shabbat b'nei ami, Shabbat b'nei ami. דרוך פורה בתוך בוצרה, וגם באוויר גברה. אלוקים בתינה במדברן, עד השיטה וראש נידן. אלוהים בתינה במדברן, עד השיטה וראש נידן. ולמחזיר שלומי מתין כמנהר, שלומי מתין כמנהר. דרור יקרה לבינים אבל ואין צורכים כמו בעבר. דרור יקרה לבינים אבל ואין צורכים כמו בעבר. נעים שמכם מרוב ניחא, שבו ונחו ביום שבת.